Welcome back to the channel USA Coins 69, coin lovers and treasure hunters. Today we're diving deep into a classic piece of American history that many people overlook every single day, the United States of America 1956 Jefferson Nickel 5-cent coin with no mint mark, a humble coin that once bought candy and soda but today holds a powerful story that collectors absolutely love to hear. The 1956 Jefferson nickel was struck during a booming post-war America, a time when the country was growing fast, families were thriving, and pocket change moved constantly through everyday life, making this coin a true symbol of mid-20th century America and a familiar companion in the hands of millions. This particular year is special because the no-mint mark Jefferson nickel was produced at the Philadelphia Mint, and unlike modern coins, the absence of a mint mark is not a mistake but a historical signature that tells us exactly where this coin was born, adding an extra layer of interest for collectors who understand the story behind American minting practices. On the front of the coin, we see the timeless portrait of Thomas Jefferson, one of America's most influential founding fathers, captured with sharp classical detail that reflects strength, intelligence, and leadership. And for collectors, the clarity of Jefferson's hair, eye, and jawline plays a huge role in determining how desirable the coin truly is. Turning the coin over reveals Monticello, Jefferson's historic home, and this is where collectors pay very close attention, because strong steps, crisp lettering, and clean architectural lines can dramatically elevate the appeal of a 1956 Jefferson nickel, especially when the coin has avoided heavy circulation where, although millions of these nickels were produced, true rarity emerges when condition enters the picture. Because most 1956 nickels were heavily used in daily commerce, tossed into pockets, drawers, and cash registers, leaving very few examples that remain sharply struck and beautifully preserved today. Collectors know that uncirculated examples are the real challenge, and coins that retain original mint luster, smooth fields, and strong details instantly rise above the rest, transforming a common date into a prized collectible that demands attention. What truly excites seasoned collectors are the fascinating mint errors found on some 1956 no-mint mark Jefferson nickels. Because errors turn ordinary coins into extraordinary finds that can stop collectors in their tracks, these errors may include off-center strikes that shift the design dramatically, double die errors that cause doubling in Jefferson's features or lettering, lamination errors where metal peels away from the surface, clipped planchets missing part of the coin, or weak strikes that create mysterious and unusual textures collectors love to study. Each error tells a story of a brief moment when something went wrong at the mint, and because these mistakes were never meant to leave the facility, surviving examples are scarce and highly desirable, especially when the error is bold and easily visible. Collectors are especially drawn to coins that combine strong eye appeal with unusual characteristics, and a 1956 Jefferson nickel featuring a clear error and minimal wear can become a centerpiece in any serious collection. This coin also holds emotional value for collectors who enjoy building full Jefferson nickel sets, because finding a high-quality 1956 no-mint mark coin is often harder than people expect, making the hunt itself part of the excitement. For coin lovers who truly appreciate American history, minting craftsmanship, and the thrill of discovery, this nickel represents far more than 5 cents. It represents patience, knowledge, and the reward that comes from looking closely at coins others ignore. Now comes the part everyone waits for. Because depending on condition and rarity, a 1956 no-mint mark Jefferson nickel in circulated condition typically holds a real market value of around a few cents to a couple of dollars, while uncirculated examples can reach values of several dollars, and rare mint error pieces or exceptional auction-grade specimens have sold at auction for amounts reaching into the hundreds and even thousands of dollars. So next time you come across an old Jefferson nickel, don't rush past it, slow down, examine every detail, and remember that sometimes the smallest coins carry the biggest stories. Today we're shining a bright spotlight on a classic American coin that most people have spent without a second thought, the United States of America 1962 Jefferson nickel 5-cent coin with no mint mark, a coin that quietly carries history, mystery, and surprising collector potential all wrapped into a small piece of everyday change. The 1962 Jefferson nickel was minted during a fascinating era in American history, a time of cultural change, economic growth, and global tension, when America was deep in the Cold War period and coins like this moved endlessly through pockets, purses, and cash registers across the nation, making it a true witness to everyday American life. Because this coin has no mint mark, it tells us it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, and during this period, Philadelphia produced massive quantities of nickels to keep up with public demand, which makes finding one today quite easy, but finding one in high-grade condition is where the real challenge begins. On the obverse side, the familiar portrait of Thomas Jefferson commands attention, and collectors closely examine every detail, from the sharpness of Jefferson's hair to the smoothness of his cheek and jawline, because these fine details can mean the difference between an ordinary coin and one that stands out in a serious collection. The reverse side features Monticello, Jefferson's historic Virginia home, and this design is especially important to Jefferson nickel collectors, because weak strikes were common during this era, making fully detailed steps, crisp columns, and strong lettering far more difficult to find than most people realize. Although millions of 1962 Jefferson nickels were struck, the majority were heavily circulated, meaning they were exposed to constant wear, scratches, and contact marks, leaving very few examples today that still display full mint luster and sharp design features. Collectors understand that rarity is not always about how many coins were made, but how many survived in excellent condition, and for this date, truly high-grade uncirculated examples are far scarcer than most people expect. What really excites collectors is the possibility of finding mint errors on 1962 no-mint mark Jefferson nickels, because errors transform common coins into highly desirable and sometimes extremely valuable pieces. Some known and sought-after errors include double die strikes that show noticeable doubling on Jefferson's face or lettering, off-center strikes that shift the design dramatically, lamination errors where metal appears cracked or peeling, clipped planchets missing part of the coin, and weak or misaligned strikes that create unusual visual effects. Collectors love to analyze. Each of these errors represents a brief mechanical mistake at the mint, a moment when something went wrong during production. And because these coins were never meant to exist, collectors chase them aggressively whenever they surface. For Jefferson nickel enthusiasts building complete sets, the 1962 no-mint mark coin holds special importance, because upgrading from a worn example to a sharply struck, high-grade piece can take years of searching and patience. This coin also appeals strongly to new collectors, because it offers an affordable entry point into error collecting, historical appreciation, and condition-based value growth, making it a favorite among both beginners and seasoned numismatists. Collectors who truly understand Jefferson nickels know that appeal, strike quality, and originality matter just as much as date and mint mark, and a beautiful 1962 nickel can easily outshine rarer dates when it comes to display and desirability. Now comes the moment every coin lover waits for, because in today's real market, a 1962 no-mint mark Jefferson nickel in circulated condition is typically worth only face value to slightly above, while uncirculated examples can command values ranging into several dollars, and high-grade certified specimens or dramatic mint error examples have reached auction prices climbing into the hundreds and even thousands of dollars. So the next time you spot a Jefferson nickel dated 1962, don't ignore it, don't rush past it, and don't underestimate it, because hidden within that small 5-cent coin could be history, rarity, and collector value waiting to be discovered. Today we're diving into one of the most talked about coins in U.S. history, the United States of America 1964 Jefferson nickel 5-cent coin with no mint mark, a coin that was born during one of the most dramatic and important years in American coinage history and still sparks excitement decades later. The year 1964 stands out like no other, because America was facing a massive coin shortage. Silver prices were rising fast, and the public was hoarding coins in fear of change, which caused the U.S. Mint to strike Jefferson nickels in enormous quantities, flooding the economy with 5-cent pieces just to keep commerce moving. Since this coin carries no mint mark, it tells us it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, and while millions upon millions were produced, the story doesn't end there, because high production does not always mean high survival in top condition, especially for a coin that was used heavily during a time of national uncertainty. On the front of the coin, we see the iconic portrait of Thomas Jefferson, and collectors pay extremely close attention to the sharpness of his hair, the clarity of his eye, and the smoothness of his cheek, because these fine details fade quickly once a coin enters circulation. making well-preserved examples far more desirable. The reverse side displays Monticello, Jefferson's historic home. And this is where serious collectors slow down and inspect every line, every column, and every step, because strong strikes with crisp architectural details are surprisingly difficult to find on 1964 Nickels due to worn dies and rushed production. Most 1964 Jefferson Nickels lived hard lives, passing through countless hands, cash registers, vending machines, and bank rolls, leaving behind scratches, dull surfaces, and flattened details. Which means truly sharp and original coins are much scarcer today than the massive mintage numbers suggest. What really drives excitement among collectors is the wide range of mint errors discovered on 1964 no-mint marked Jefferson Nickels, because the extreme production pressure of that year created the perfect environment for mistakes to slip through unnoticed. Collectors hunt for double die errors showing visible doubling on lettering or Jefferson's profile, off-center strikes that dramatically shift the design, clipped planchets missing part of the coin, lamination errors where the metal appears cracked or peeling, and weak or misaligned strikes that give the coin an unusual and fascinating appearance. Each of these errors tells a story of chaos inside the mint, a brief mechanical failure frozen in time, and because these coins were never supposed to exist, collectors value them not just for rarity but for the history behind the mistake. The 1964 Jefferson nickel is especially beloved by collectors building full date and mint sets, because upgrading from a worn example to a sharply struck, eye-appealing piece can take years of searching and patience, making every upgrade feel like a true victory. This coin also attracts new collectors, because it proves an important lesson in numismatics, that rarity is often about condition, strike quality, and uniqueness rather than age alone. And even a modern-looking nickel can become a standout piece in the right state of preservation. Collectors who understand this series know that original luster, clean fields, and strong design details can transform an everyday 5-cent coin into a highly desirable collectible that commands respect within the hobby. Now comes the moment every coin lover waits for, because in today's real market, a 1964 no-mint marked Jefferson nickel in circulated condition is generally worth only face value, while uncirculated examples can reach values of several dollars. And high-grade certified specimens or dramatic mint error coins have achieved auction prices ranging from hundreds to even thousands of dollars. So the next time you see a Jefferson nickel dated 1964, don't ignore it, don't underestimate it, and don't rush past it, because hidden inside that small coin could be history, rarity, and collector value waiting to be discovered. Today's coin may look ordinary at first glance, but its story, its details, and its hidden potential make it a fascinating piece for collectors who truly understand the hobby. Welcome back, treasure hunters and passionate numismatists. Today we're focusing on a modern-era classic that still sparks excitement in rolls and collections across America. The United States of America 1980 Jefferson nickel 5 cents coin struck with the D mint mark, a coin that quietly represents a turning point in U.S. coinage history and continues to surprise collectors who know what to look for. The year 1980 sits in a unique place in American history, a time of economic uncertainty, inflation fears, and rapid change, when coins were moving constantly through circulation and few people thought about saving them, making high-quality survivors far scarcer today than most people ever expect. This Jefferson nickel was struck at the Denver Mint, proudly marked with the D mint mark, and while millions were produced to meet everyday demand, production speed and heavy circulation meant that many coins left the mint with weak strikes or quickly lost their original detail once they entered public use. On the obverse, the familiar portrait of Thomas Jefferson appears, but collectors know that not all portraits are created equal, because the sharpness of Jefferson's hair, the clarity of his eye, and the smoothness of his cheek are key indicators of strike quality, and strong details can dramatically elevate a 1980 D nickel above average examples. Flip the coin over and you'll see Monticello, Jefferson's historic home, and this is where experienced collectors really focus their attention, because during this era, worn dies and rushed production often resulted in soft details, making sharply defined columns, crisp lettering, and clear steps much harder to find than casual observers realize. Although the 1980 D Jefferson nickel is considered common by mintage numbers alone, true rarity appears when condition enters the conversation, because most of these coins were heavily circulated, scratched, dulled, and weaken through years of everyday handling. Uncirculated examples with full original luster, clean fields, and strong strikes are far scarcer than people expect. And collectors know that finding one untouched by circulation can feel like discovering a hidden treasure in plain sight. What truly excites coin lovers is the wide range of mint errors known to exist on 1980 Jefferson Nickels, because errors transform ordinary coins into extraordinary collectibles that tell a story of mechanical mishaps inside the mint. Collectors search eagerly for double die errors showing noticeable doubling on lettering or Jefferson's profile, off-center strikes where the design is dramatically shifted, clipped planchets missing part of the coin, lamination errors where the metal appears cracked or peeling, and weak or misaligned strikes that create unusual textures and shapes. These errors were never intended to leave the mint, and when they do survive, they become highly desirable pieces that collectors chase aggressively, especially when the error is bold, visible, and combined with strong overall condition. The 1980 Jefferson nickel also holds special appeal for collectors building complete modern-era sets, because upgrading from an average circulated coin to a sharply struck, eye-appealing example can take patience, knowledge, and a trained eye. For newer collectors, this coin serves as a perfect lesson that valuable coins are not always old or made of precious metal, but are often defined by condition, rarity, and unique characteristics that most people overlook. Experienced collectors appreciate how a beautifully preserved 1980 nickel can stand out in a collection, proving that even modern coins deserve respect and careful study. Now comes the moment every coin lover waits for. Because in today's real market, a 1980 Jefferson nickel in circulated condition typically holds only face value, while uncirculated examples can reach values of several dollars, and high-grade certified coins or dramatic mint error examples have achieved auction prices reaching into the hundreds of dollars and, in rare standout cases, even higher amounts. So the next time you come across a Jefferson nickel dated 1980 with a D mint mark, don't dismiss it too quickly. Take a closer look, study the details, and remember that hidden value often lies where most people never bother to look. Today we're exploring the United States of America 1977 Jefferson nickel 5-cent coin struck with the D mint mark, a coin many people have spent without a second glance, yet one that holds a special place in modern U.S. coin collecting. The year 1977 was a fascinating time in America, marked by economic change, rising inflation concerns, and a nation adjusting to a new era. And coins like this Jefferson nickel moved rapidly through circulation, rarely being saved or protected, which makes high-quality survivors far more interesting than their mintage numbers suggest. This particular nickel was struck at the Denver Mint, identified by the D mint mark, and while production numbers were high to meet everyday demand, speed and efficiency often took priority, leading to weak strikes, worn dies, and coins that entered circulation with less than perfect detail. On the obverse, the familiar portrait of Thomas Jefferson appears calm and dignified, but collectors know to inspect closely, because the sharpness of Jefferson's hair, the definition of his eye, and the smoothness of his cheek are critical factors that separate an average coin from a desirable one. Turning to the reverse side reveals Monticello, Jefferson's historic home, and this is where experienced collectors slow down and examine every line, column, and step, because during the late 1970s, fully struck details were not guaranteed, making crisp architectural features surprisingly scarce. Although the 1977 D Jefferson nickel is often labeled as common, true rarity begins when condition is considered, because most examples were heavily circulated, acquiring scratches, dull surfaces, and flattened details that permanently reduce collector appeal. Finding an uncirculated example with full original luster, clean fields, and strong strike quality can be far more challenging than expected, especially when searching through rolls or old collections. Decades later, what truly excites collectors are the mint errors that appear on some 1977 D Jefferson nickels, because errors transform ordinary coins into standout collectibles that tell a fascinating story of what happened inside the mint. Collectors actively search for double die errors showing visible doubling on lettering or Jefferson's profile, off-center strikes that shift the design dramatically, clipped planchets missing part of the coin, lamination errors where metal appears cracked or peeling, and misaligned or weak strikes that create unusual and eye-catching effects. These errors were never meant to reach the public, and when they do survive, they become highly desirable pieces that collectors pursue with passion, especially when the era is bold, clear, and paired with strong overall condition. The 1977 Jefferson nickel also holds importance for collectors building complete date and mint mark sets, because upgrading from a worn example to a sharply struck and visually appealing piece can take years of searching and patience. For newer collectors, this coin offers an important lesson that value is not always about age or precious metal, but about condition, uniqueness, and attention to detail, rewarding those who take the time to truly look. Seasoned collectors appreciate how a beautifully preserved 1977 nickel can stand out in a collection, proving that modern coins can still deliver excitement, challenge, and long-term appeal. Now comes the moment every coin lover waits for, because in today's real market, a 1977 Jefferson nickel in circulated condition generally holds face value, while uncirculated examples can reach values of several dollars, and high-grade certified coins or dramatic mint-era specimens have achieved auction prices ranging from tens to hundreds of dollars and, in rare standout cases, even higher amounts. So the next time a Jefferson nickel dated 1977 with AD mint mark passes through your hands, don't rush past it, take a closer look, study the details, and remember that hidden value often lives inside the coins most people overlook. Today we're taking a deep dive into the United States of America 1982 Jefferson nickel 5 cents coin struck with the D mint mark, a coin born during a period of economic pressure and rapid mint production that created the perfect conditions for rarity, mistakes, and hidden value. The year 1982 was a challenging time for the American economy, with inflation, rising costs, and constant circulation of coinage, meaning nickels were produced fast and used hard, rarely set aside or protected, which immediately makes high-quality survivors far scarcer than mintage numbers alone would ever suggest. This coin was struck at the Denver Mint, proudly carrying the D mint mark, and while millions were produced to keep up with public demand, speed often mattered more than perfection, leading to weak strikes, worn dies, and a wide range of variations that collectors love to study today. On the obverse, the familiar portrait of Thomas Jefferson stands calmly, but experienced collectors know to examine every detail closely, because sharp hairlines, a clear eye, and a smooth cheek are signs of a strong strike, and those features are not easy to find on 1982 nickels. Turning the coin over reveals Monticello, Jefferson's historic home, and this is where true Jefferson nickel collectors slow down and take their time, because fully defined steps, crisp columns, and sharp lettering are surprisingly difficult to locate due to the rushed production methods used during this era. Although many people consider the 1982 Jefferson nickel to be common, condition changes everything, because most examples were heavily circulated, picking up scratches, dull surfaces, and flattened details that permanently reduce their collector appeal. Finding an uncirculated example with original mint luster, clean fields, and strong overall eye appeal can feel like discovering a hidden treasure, especially when searching through rolls or old collections decades later. What truly fuels collector excitement are the mint errors associated with 1982 Jefferson nickels, because errors transform everyday coins into fascinating and sometimes very valuable collectibles. Collectors search eagerly for double die errors that show noticeable doubling on lettering or Jefferson's profile, off-center strikes where the design is shifted dramatically, clipped planchets missing part of the coin, lamination errors where the metal appears cracked or peeling, and misaligned or weak strikes that create unusual textures and shapes. Each of these errors tells a story of a brief mechanical failure inside the mint, a moment when something went wrong and was accidentally preserved forever in metal, making these coins highly desirable to error collectors. Coins that combine a strong visual error with good overall condition are especially prized, because they offer both rarity and eye appeal, two qualities that serious collectors constantly chase. The 1982 Jefferson nickel also holds importance for collectors building modern-date sets, because upgrading from a worn example to a sharply struck, visually pleasing piece can require patience, knowledge, and a very sharp eye. For new collectors, this coin teaches an important lesson that value is not always about age or precious metals, but about condition, rarity, and uniqueness, rewarding those who take time to look closely at every detail. Seasoned collectors appreciate how a beautiful 1982 nickel can stand out in a collection, proving that even modern-era coins can deliver excitement, challenge, and long-term collector interest. Now comes the moment every coin lover waits for, because in today's real market, a 1982 D Jefferson nickel in circulated condition generally holds face value, while uncirculated examples can reach values of several dollars, and high-grade certified specimens or dramatic mint error examples have brought auction prices ranging from tens to hundreds of dollars and, in rare standout cases, even higher amounts. So the next time a Jefferson nickel dated 1982 with a D mint mark lands in your hand, don't dismiss it, don't rush past it, and don't underestimate it, because hidden value often lives inside the coins most people overlook. Today we're taking a close and careful look at the United States of America 2000 Jefferson nickel 5 cents coin struck with the D mint mark, a coin that many people still carry today without realizing it holds a fascinating place in modern U.S. coin collecting history. The year 2000 marked the beginning of a brand new millennium, a time filled with excitement, change, and rapid modernization. And coins from this era represent the bridge between classic 20th century coinage and the fast-moving world of the 21st century. This Jefferson nickel was produced at the Denver Mint, proudly carrying the D mint mark, and while production numbers were strong to meet everyday demand, very few people thought about saving rolls of nickels from this time, meaning most examples went straight into circulation and stayed there. On the front of the coin, the familiar portrait of Thomas Jefferson appears. But collectors know that modern does not mean perfect, because strike quality still varies, and sharp hair detail, clear facial features, and clean fields are always key factors that separate an average coin from a collectible one. When you turn the coin over, Monticello stands proudly on the reverse, and serious Jefferson nickel collectors carefully examine the steps, columns, and lettering, because even in the year 2000, weak strikes and die wear could still result in soft details that reduce collector appeal. Although the 2000 D Jefferson nickel is often considered common, rarity begins to appear when condition is considered, because most examples were heavily handled, rolled, counted, and exchanged countless times, leaving very few coins with pristine surfaces and original mint luster. Finding an uncirculated example with clean fields, strong strike quality, and fresh original shine can be surprisingly difficult, especially when searching through bank rolls or loose change decades later. What truly excites collectors about the 2000 D Jefferson nickel is the possibility of mint errors, because errors are what turn modern coins into standout collectibles that demand attention. Collectors actively search for off-center strikes where the design is noticeably shifted, double die errors that show clear doubling on letters or design elements, clipped planchets missing part of the coin, lamination errors where metal appears cracked or peeling, and misaligned strikes that create unusual and eye-catching shapes. Each error represents a brief moment when something went wrong during the minting process, and because these mistakes were never intended to leave the mint, surviving examples become highly desirable and exciting finds for collectors. Coins that combine a bold error with strong overall condition are especially valuable, because they offer both visual impact and rarity, two qualities that collectors constantly chase. The 2000 D Jefferson nickel also holds importance for collectors building complete modern era sets, because it represents the final years of the classic Monticello reverse design before major changes arrive just a few years later. For newer collectors, this coin sends an important message that valuable coins are not always old or silver, but are often defined by condition, uniqueness, and careful observation, rewarding those who take time to truly look. Experienced collectors appreciate how a beautifully preserved 2000 D nickel can stand out in a collection, proving that even coins from recent decades can carry excitement and long-term interest. Now comes the moment every coin lover waits for, because in today's real market, a 2000 D Jefferson nickel in circulated condition is typically worth face value, while uncirculated examples can reach values of several dollars, and high-grade certified specimens or dramatic mint error coins have achieved auction prices ranging from tens of dollars to hundreds of dollars and, in rare standout cases, even higher amounts. So the next time a Jefferson nickel dated 2000 with a D mint mark lands in your hand, don't ignore it, don't rush past it, and don't underestimate it, because hidden value often lives inside the coins most people overlook. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into modern American coin treasures, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another exciting discovery hiding in your pocket change.